Thank you.
So ominous.
I know. So sneaky. So sneaky. Welcome everybody to the July edition of the Mesa Business and Education Foundation. My name is Bob Nelson. I am um, well, I'm the staff liaison to the committee, and I am here to kind of facilitate things and keep things moving quickly. So why don't we go around real quick, give everybody a chance to kind of introduce themselves and who they represent this morning. Brad, we'll start with you.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute. Yeah, so I'm Brad Broyles, co-founder, CFO, HR of Polaris Academy. We focus on autistic kids and education and behavioral therapy.
And
Thank you.
mover.
And mover,
And
and a
then
mover,
mover.
and mover. Michelle, let's go to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm brand new, first time joining one of these meetings. I am with BMO Bank here in Mesa. My goal is to get out to the Mesa community and further educate our students about what it entails as far as banking, finances, and everything they need to know that they're not receiving maybe in the public schools, like even how to balance a checking account. A lot of the financial education has been taken from the schools, and I'm finding out. And so I'm trying to do that outreach, get involved, and find a place to educate our students and bring that relationship back to BMO Bank.
Cool. Welcome. Welcome to the meeting. And
Thanks.
Ben?
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is my second, I think, Education Committee meeting, and I'm with Garmin. I'm the site manager of a new facility here in the Valley that Garmin is starting up for aircraft certification, and it's just starting to get connected to some of the local community colleges and high schools in the school district to work on some apprenticeship programs for students that are looking for maybe career technical certification or maybe some higher education. So it's just getting plugged into the community as well.
Cool. And welcome to the meeting. I'm not skipping Eric, but I'll introduce him because he is our speaker today. So, and he's the host. So now he's the host. So I'm curious if that recording is going to end up on your Zoom account and not mine.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, regardless, let me go through the agenda items that we would normally go through just so we can get to Eric's presentation. We do not have any elected officials with us that I know of today, so we won't necessarily have any updates on that. But I do think that bleeds into a little bit of what Eric is talking about today, so that'll be part of his presentation. We don't have any board members present today, so I don't really have an, and we have, I think we meet every quarter now. Is that it, Eric? The cadence for the chamber board?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they meet
So
every
every
quarter.
other month or whatever. Yeah.
So there hasn't been a meeting since we met last month. So there's really not any updates that they would have had anyway to give us. Um, and then chamber updates. I don't know if you're all aware, but a week from tomorrow is Mesa Has Heart, which is kind of our big annual celebration of our foreign nonprofit community, where we give some awards. We have a live band. We have all kinds of entertainment going on. There's free food as part of your registration, and it's just a good time, and you should be there. So, other than that, it is kind of committee week here at the chamber. So, most of the committees have their meetings usually in the second and third week of the month. So, if you're interested in any of the other committees that meet on a regular basis, certainly feel free to check out the chamber calendar and you can join in on any of the meetings that are on the calendar. So, if there are other sort of cluster areas that are of interest to you, and you want to get involved on those, you can. I will tell you that our Community Action Project, which is our nonprofit committee, for the month of July, they did kind of adopt an education sort of theme to that meeting. They're going to talk to back to school. Renee Parker with the Mesa Public Schools Foundation is going to be a presenter in that meeting. And then we're also going to put together. You might have seen this on email if you're in that sort of cluster. We put out a request for resources from the nonprofit community for back to school resources and the chamber is going to build a sort of a resource guide and present it to that meeting to that group of nonprofits to see if they're supportive of that. And then if they are, we're going to send that out to membership at large. So that's kind of the high level overview of what's happening at the chamber. I know we have a government affairs meeting coming up on Friday morning. Eric, do you know who's speaking at that?
I'm not sure who's on the agenda. I'd have to pull that up myself.
Hang on, I got it. I got it. I got it. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell is joining
Mitchell.
us on
That's right.
Friday. So, if you're interested in government affairs, you just kind of want to be engaged in that, certainly feel free to be at that meeting. Of course, that meeting is free to attend. It is early, it's 7:30, so make sure you're here at the chamber at 7:30 so that you can be a part of that. Um, and I think those are the big hit items that we've got going on right now. There's some things that we're working on that I can share in next month's meeting. But I will at this point just go ahead and introduce our speaker. So our speaker today is Eric Emmert. He is with Dorn Policy Group. He is the lobbyist the chamber employs to represent us at the state capitol and among other things. I kind of consider him like the eighth Beatle here at the chamber. He's kind of a staff member um, de facto because he's been here longer than I have, I think.
No, not quite, Bob.
Not quite.
You get bragging rights.
Dang it. So he's been here almost as long as I have, which is a good long time now. But Eric's always done a fantastic job of representing the business community, whether it's at the state capitol or other events or what have you. It's really is a pleasure having him work with us because he's an incredible talent. So with that, I will turn it over to him and let him take the day.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Good morning, everybody. It is. Can you all see my screen there? Hopefully you can. All right, the legislature, the group that we send to the state capitol to get work done for us, ended their session on Saturday at 4:45 in the morning. It was a long day. They were very busy last week and got a budget through. We'll talk about that. The governor signed it on Saturday, and the legislature went home. They adjourned sine die. That means without a day in Latin. So they went home to campaign. In Arizona, we have a shared government. Our governor is Governor Katie Hobbs. She's a Democrat. Our legislature is controlled by Republicans. In the state Senate, you have Senate President Warren Peterson. He kind of controls the agenda. The Republicans dominate the numbers 17-13. We have 30 senators in our legislature. And that's an important number because if a bill gets 15 votes each way, 15-15, it fails to move forward in the process. So those of us who are in the business of counting votes and making sure that people vote certain ways are really focused on that number. But because the Republicans are in control, they get to set the agenda. They get to determine what bills go on the floor for a vote. They get to determine the committee chairs. They get to determine the makeup of the committees. They're in control. President Peterson is from the East Valley. He's from Gilbert. He's a home builder by trade and all-around good guy. Running for Attorney General this year. Over in the House of Representatives, there you see the numbers. There are 60 representatives in the House of Representatives, 33 Republicans, 27 Democrats. So Republicans control both chambers of the legislature, the House and the Senate. Again, same thing. The Republicans get to determine what bills go to the floor for a vote. They get to determine the committee chairs. They get to determine the makeup of the committees and what bills move forward in the process and what bills don't. The Speaker of the House is Steve Montenegro from the West Valley. He's a pastor by trade and has done a good job of keeping his caucus, the Republicans, together. Even though along the political spectrum, there are far-right individuals, there are more centrist individuals in the Republican Party. Same thing with the Democrats, but with the Republicans in control, it's notable. This is a snapshot of the session. There were 152 days of our 100-day session. They just keep extending until they get their work done. They took about 3 weeks off in the middle of the session to kind of focus on the budget. They sent the governor a budget. She vetoed it, said it wasn't good enough. And they really got down to brass tacks and started negotiating with her and eventually got one done. And we'll talk about the content of what was included in that budget. but that is included in that 2,190 figure you see on the screen there. That's a little higher than normal. The freshmen were active this year in introducing bills in the legislature. Typically, there's 17 or 1,800 bills that are introduced, and this year is 2,190. Signed into law 142 as of today. Bills vetoed 63. The general effective date for legislation is September 12th. So in the fall, you'll hear news media reports about this law going into effect or that law going into effect. It's 90 days after the close of the session. So they closed on Saturday, or technically on Friday because they didn't adjourn. But anyway, the 90 days starts after that, once they adjourn. So September 12th is our general effective date for legislation, unless it's otherwise specified in the bill. Taking a look at our budget, it's an $18.3 billion budget this year. This is a 10-year snapshot of revenues and expenditures. The point of this slide is to show you that your legislators and your governors have been good stewards of your tax dollars. The revenues are in green, the expenditures there are in red. This is how your money is spent. The largest chunk there, without question, is K-12 education. They're in red. Universities are down at the bottom of that pie chart in kind of a burnt orange. And then community colleges are there in yellow. So the largest portion of our budget, more than half, is spent on education in some way, shape, or form. Corrections, access, our healthcare cost containment system rounds out the larger chunks. And then ADOT and Department of Public Service and all those others are in the brown up at the top of the pie chart there. But this is how your money is being spent in the Arizona budget in 2027. Whoops. This graph just shows how money has come in a volatile fashion. If you think about the zero line there being the budget, what was adopted in terms of expected revenues, the green means we exceeded what was expected in revenues for that particular month. The red says that we didn't make revenues. So it's just been volatile. It's been very difficult to determine how much money we actually have to spend moving forward if you extrapolate this graph on into the future. Budget highlights. Again, the budget was $16.3 billion with a B. State conformity. This is an exercise that we go through each year whereby your legislature conforms to changes in the federal tax code. Kind of boring stuff, but it matters this year because of H.R. 1, or the big, beautiful bill that was passed at the federal level in July. And what the state was doing was conforming with a bunch of tax changes that the feds made in the big, beautiful bill. And it had a fiscal impact to the tune of about $480 million. That's pretty significant against an $18.3 billion budget. What the legislature kept sending the governor bills that would do full conformity, meaning that issues like taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, taxes on research and development processes, small business deductions, a standard deduction for the elderly, those tax cuts that were included in the big, beautiful bill, we would agree with as a state. And she vetoed those. Kept saying, just give me the bare bones, not all the tax changes that are included in the big, beautiful bill. But eventually, budget is not just a policy and fiscal document, but a compromise document, and it included full conformity. So, point being, for your business, you don't need to keep different sets of books this year for state taxes and federal taxes. It's all the same, and if you filed, which hopefully you did, otherwise you may go to jail, you won't have to refile or change anything moving forward. There was a 2% inflator for K-12 education. They typically include that in the budget, but it's notable for this year because of a number of factors I'll talk about here in a second. 2% additional assistance for charter schools. I'm not going to read through all those, but I just wanted to highlight those things related to education that you may or may not care about. Education issues. Let's talk about what was in the legislature this year in terms of bills. Empowerment scholarship accounts. At the 11th hour, there was a deal that was trying to be made because there are two initiatives on the street dealing with empowerment scholarship accounts, think vouchers, where the kid gets $7,000 and can either use it for a public school or a private school, and that money travels with the child to whatever school. The empowerment scholarship deal that was trying to be made was the legislature would put further restrictions on ESAs in return for the teachers unions dropping their initiative that is collecting signatures right now to be put on the ballot. That fell through. There was a news report about this yesterday in the Arizona Republic that does a great job of explaining the politics behind this. But bottom line, the legislature did in fact pass HR 2048. What it does is it wraps empowerment scholarship account protection in military families. Kind of, I don't know. They could have done it without doing it that way, but that's how they did it at the legislature to get it on the ballot. So we will have to vote on that this fall. The aggregate expenditure limit was taken care of last year. That's where we at K-12 education has spent or has been allocated money so much so that they're up against a constitutional limit on how much they can spend. That it was lifted last year, so good news for this year. Department of Education reporting requirements. This is a bill to set up some changes in the education statutes for next year. And then Proposition 123, which was a proposition that was passed back in 2015. It lasted 10 years and has sunsetted, but it captured some of the interest in the state education account from state trust lands and dedicates it into the classroom. Again, that went away. The legislature backfilled it last year with some money from the general fund. And there was discussion about reauthorizing it or putting it back on the ballot for the public to vote on, but it never really got across the finish line. So Proposition 123 is going to go away unless there's an effort in the future to revive it. Looking at some future issues as we wrap up, these are the ballot measures that the legislature referred to the ballot this fall. I'm not going to go through each of these, but you can see there what we'll be voting on from the legislature this fall. There is still the initiatives where people are out collecting signatures to get a publicly initiated question on the ballot. And those still have to be turned in by July. I forget the date on it, but sometime in July. And then we'll know what's on the ballot this fall. But this is what the legislature has referred to the ballot. 3 questions last year and 7 questions this year. You see there HCR 2048 dealing with military family scholarship accounts. That's the ESA question that the legislature put forward. There's other stuff there dealing with biological sex and interscholastic or intramural athletics. Let's see, photo enforcement, not necessarily education related, but hey, who doesn't love photo enforcement? We'll get a vote on that. And then there's some other things there that will be on the ballot this fall. Future issues, housing. The legislature has tried several times to address housing and housing supply and how do we address middle housing, affordable housing, and get more housing stock into the system. That's going to continue to be an issue down at the legislature. Water, as a state, we're faced with some reductions in the Colorado River. Not only is there less water traveling down the river, but there are some restrictions that may be put into place by the federal government. There was some money in the budget to lawyer up and litigate on that particular issue, and I won't get into it unless you have questions on it, but water is going to continue to be an issue, not just at the legislature, but statewide. So pay attention to your media sources on that particular subject because it's going to impact all of us. Taxes, there was a Republican gubernatorial debate last night. The issue of taxes did come up. I think it's Andy Biggs, who's one of the Republican candidates for governor, has suggested that we do away with the income tax. that would be significant, a significant loss of revenue for the state, and something that will be debated on into the fall as the governor's race unfolds. Transportation funding, we have some challenges with transportation, or at least our roads being maintained properly. There needs to be a dedicated funding source for that, either an increase in the gas tax or a sales tax, but that debate is going to take place not just at the legislature, but likely on the ballot on into the future for a couple of years. And then artificial intelligence, whether it's data centers, whether it's regulation of artificial intelligence, there's going to be a discussion about AI down at the legislature as well as in Congress and how to regulate it. I will stop there, Mr. Bob, and see if there are any questions from the group. I have covered a lot of topics, I realize, but I'm happy to answer any questions about either the topics that I talked about or maybe something you read in the news recently about the legislature adjourning, or just any topics in general.
So Eric, let me just kind of kick you off. When do the legislators come back from their break?
Now they adjourn sine die, so that means without a day. That means they're done with their legislative session. Now they could get called back into special session about any topic that the governor puts on her call, but they are done for the year for the most part. They'll go back in January after the election in November, and it'll be a whole new legislature. So they are done for the year.
Brad, I think you were queuing up to ask something there.
Yeah, I was going to ask a few questions, Eric, just because I know ESA has been a pretty hot topic in debate in this session this last this last year. So just there's been so much information floating around. I just wanted to get a little bit of clarity of exactly what was approved, what's going to the ballot, and what was not going to the ballot. For example, and we work pretty closely with a company called Love Your School. It's a nonprofit 501c3 that helps parents, school choice. And they were working on some stuff. So again, I just wanted to know what passed and what didn't. There was an argument for an income limit for ESA. If you made more, I think more than $150,000, then that would limit parents for applying for ESA. Just didn't know if that got pushed through. There was a big argument going in that schools, which I kind of like this initiative, that if you're going to take ESA monies, then you need to be accredited, which I really agree with. But I didn't know if, because we're accredited, and I just didn't know if that passed. And let's see, what was the other? I think those are the two. Oh, the rollovers, meaning that they put a cap of how much families can have with ESA, and they can't roll it over for the following year. Those are the ones that I remember. If there's any other additional hot topic ones, please remind me, but just didn't know where we landed on those three arguments.
Yeah, no, good question, Brad. Let me take a step back and explain our process here in Arizona, and then get into the details. We have to access the ballot, there are two ways to do it. You can go out and initiate a question by getting it certified by the Secretary of State and then going out and collecting signatures. That's initiated by the public. Then there's the referral process, whereby the legislature actually passes bills. Doesn't go to the governor, it goes to the Secretary of State to be put on the ballot, but it still has to pass the legislature, and that's what happened this year. So and what is passed at the ballot is what's called voter protected. Back in 1998, we had a ballot measure that asked if something passes at the ballot, that 2/3 of the legislature has to agree to further the purpose. So it's ballot protected, meaning it's very difficult to change for the ebbs and flows of a changing economy, or just changes in economics. The ESA issue has two initiatives, publicly started initiatives, that are being collected on the street right now. I can't tell you exactly what's in there, but there is an income cap of $150,000 in one of them. If you're above that, you don't get to access empowerment scholarship accounts. There are other issues with rollovers that are involved. but those are still on the street being signature collected. So they haven't made the ballot yet. But what has made the ballot is protection of the ESA program, in that if you that whatever is passed at the ballot does not take away from the program. So you have two competing initiatives potentially that may have to be litigated. So it's really a mess. And I direct you to the Arizona Republic article yesterday if you haven't had the chance to read it. It does a good job of explaining the politics behind things, but it's kind of a mess right now.
Yeah, it blows. The more I'm into this, working with special needs, the more it it blows my mind of how much you have to advocate for the most vulnerable kids in our community.
Yeah.
Like they really need people to advocate for them. Sorry, I'm just in my truck. Um, they just need good people to advocate for them, to work hard for them because um, it's crazy if they put. And this is just me throwing my opinion, but it's crazy. It's like if you have special needs kids, I sure hope you don't make more than $150,000 a year. You know, and
Yeah.
I think that's I don't that's not kind of what I don't think the purpose of ESA, but that's just my opinion. But okay,
Yeah.
but that very well discussed. Good information.
Yeah, ESA's Empowerment Scholarship accounts were initially for the most vulnerable of our population, and then they turned it into a voucher program for everybody to use. And it's really kind of unfortunate how the most vulnerable have been lost in this discussion, and then it's become a school choice battle. But it is what it is.
Okay. So then, just the way I understand it, the income cap and the rollover, those are still out for signatures. So it may or may not make the ballot. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is the long and short of it. Yes.
Anybody else? Ben?
Yeah, I did have a question, Eric. In some of your early slides, you were talking briefly about the revenue and kind of deficit for Arizona. I'm still getting kind of used to Arizona state stuff. Uh, I noticed that there were like these pretty dramatic spikes. Like May was a spike way above income. Like income was really high. Is there just in general something that's happening in those months where revenues come in high and there's not some big expenditures from the state?
Yeah, good question, Ben. The short answer is we don't know. If you
Oh,
talk to the economists in the state, they're not sure what's occurring. The most volatile of our taxes, we get taxes from several different places, from sales tax, from personal income tax, from corporate income tax. And that latter one, the corporate income tax, is our most volatile one. So you may have a really good month for corporate income taxes and then a really bad month, and we don't know why. It's just the way money ebbs and flows through the economy here in the state, and it's been difficult to predict for the smartest of the economists in the state as to what's going on. So I'm afraid I'm not qualified to answer that question completely,
okay.
but it is what it is.
Okay. Thank you.
That would almost sound like an ASU initiative to work on that.
Yeah. There, in fact, one of our professors that works in the ASU is one of the economists that advises our state. We have a financial advisory commission that comes together from economists from Jim Rounds to from for universities across the state, and they advise the state, and they just don't know.
So I will tap in real quick and just say one of the best ways to make sure that Eric is our representative or is your representative, does the best that he can when he is at the state capitol is of course to know what's going on with you and your industry. So I'll plug the government affairs committee meeting that happens once a month because I know Eric is typically there. And that's a great opportunity for you to check in with any of the things in your industry that you're noticing that you might want to have him kind of peek at or see if there's any room to navigate with or deal with in any way. He's very approachable. I approach him all the time, and he doesn't run away, which is fantastic for me. It's almost like having a real friend. And but he's very I know I effuse about him a lot, but he's very smart. He's very in tune with what's happening on a state level and even on a national level. I think you can kind of get a lot of insight from him into what's happening. So please don't hesitate. Avail yourself of that resource because it's not a resource that everybody has, and we're lucky to have it. So again, I will just tout your pluses.
Thanks, Bob. And let me take that a step further. If as business people, we're so focused on doing what we do day in and day out, whether it's banking, whether it's dealing with the vulnerable populations in our state or whatever it is, and we lose sight of the ability to change laws. So if you have things that are troubling you in business, share your story with us because there have been some changes in state law that have come out of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. We had an unscrupulous attorney that was driving around town that was telling businesses, hey, your handicap sign is 2 inches too low. You need to raise it, but we'll make our lawsuit go away if you pay us $10,000. He was shaking businesses down for minor infractions, excuse me, in the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we said, this is wrong. So we put forth a law that would allow 90 days for a business to cure whatever violation they had, however minor or however major. And it rendered these attorneys vexatious litigants, and they lost their license. That's just one example. We've had another example where businesses were being shaken down for a burger or something like that, and the threat was either give me a free burger or I'm going to write a bad review about you, despite the fact there was no transaction or there was no sale that occurred. We made that illegal. That's theft by extortion by definition. So that's your chamber dues at work. So if you have issues, please let Sally, Bob, or I know, and we can work it through the system if possible.
So I don't really have any other agenda items for today, but I did want to open it up to the floor a little bit and see if there were any topics that we wanted to include in upcoming meetings. I know July probably will be maybe quiet. I don't know. Maybe everybody will have time. Maybe poor Brad won't be moving stuff out of a semi trailer. I don't know. Um,
We will because we have another opening at the end of July. So we're
um,
all good stuff.
but if there's stuff that you guys want us to kind of put together as an agenda item and talk to, or bring someone like Eric in and talk to, this is the time to let me know so that I can get on the horn and start lining up people to come in and talk to us. I will probably approach Renee about coming in and doing a presentation to this committee as well. So we can look for that in the fall. But I'm open right now if you guys have any ideas or things that you want to know more about, not even necessarily strictly education related. If you would like to hear more about a particular topic, let me know. I'm happy to find us someone that can talk to that topic. So I know the CAP committee is going to have some upcoming presentations on mental wellness in relation to being a one person or small nonprofit, and some of the strains and stresses that come with that. So we're going to have some specialists come in and talk to that. Our tech committee, of course, is going to get ready to get into the fall and do some work around AZ Strut, actually, which is a nonprofit. There'll be an event around that, and we're going to talk about preparing for next year's Arizona Tech Week. So that's some of the stuff going on with that committee. And then I have been working on sort of revamping our small business strategy committee to kind of create a new way for that committee to be effective. I felt like that scope is a little bit too broad to really be effective for the majority of membership. So I'm kind of working on revamping that committee, so you'll find some information on that. So, what do you got? What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about?
Um, well, first of all, I'm grateful to have Eric share what's going on in the state legislative this session. There's been so many, like you said, noise out there, and it's kind of hard to know exactly where we at as a state, what was approved, what's not approved. There's so much negotiations and politics in place. It's kind of hard as a business owner to kind of know, okay, this got done, this did not get done. So your information today, Eric, was very valuable, and I really appreciate that. So more of that. That's kind of what I like to see. Things on my mind. I wonder how much we can help with because school's starting up here. NPS. I don't know if there's any collaboration we can do with the school board with NPS. Don't know if there's. What was
Oh
that?
no, you're good, Brad. Sorry, Ben was
Oh,
just saying
gotcha.
he's got to run, so I
Oh,
was just saying
gotcha.
bye.
Yeah. So that I don't want to manipulate the conversation, but yeah, that was it. If there's any more initiative that we can do with EVIT, um, that would be pretty neat to have EVIT involved to see what's going on there and if there's any kind of collaboration with them. But that's the only thing I have.
And that's actually a good point. I'll reach out to EVIT and see if I can get them to come in and do a presentation for us. Just kind of high level, let us know what they do, how they do it, and how you can engage with them. That's actually a good one. I can run with that pretty easily. Michelle, what about you?
Feel like I'm a little bit of a fly on the wall right now, just kind of absorbing all of it. Um, just to speak to a little bit about the banking industry and our biggest challenge right now as AI becomes more of a force in our industry, we are experiencing a little bit more of a challenge around stopping fraud. I don't know if there's, any place for Eric in that, but just so everybody can kind of, understand what's going on in the banking world right now. And then in the summer months, we see a decrease in traffic. And so it makes us a little bit challenged when it comes to a sales environment. But to speak to Brad a little bit, if you find any place within what you do where BMO Bank can come and offer some financial education or, just volunteer with some of your students, we'd be happy to find a place there and, get to know you and your business and your students a little bit more.
So that's actually a good mention, Michelle, because we want to sort of cross-pollinate committee work a little bit. So, especially in the technology committee, we've talked a lot about taking their AI knowledge and sort of bringing that over to the other committees, and kind of learn how to approach and engage this new thing that's taken everything over. So we will probably schedule some of that because we've already talked about some of that. Likewise, there's an opportunity for us to take members of this committee and bring them over to the other committees to talk about the future of education as it relates to those industry clusters that those committees represent. So, we'll be doing some of that as well. So, at some point somebody may get an invite from me to do that. So,
Okay. Sounds great.
yeah. Um, okay. So I just want to make sure we make sure we got everything we needed there. I did get a couple of really good future topic ideas. I'll try and set that up before the end of this week so we know what we're doing. As always, thank you for being a part of what we do. I know we were a little light today, but I'm kind of going on that it's summer and everybody's kind of got their time off
Yeah.
scheduled if they're in the education world, except for poor Brad who's having to unload trucks. So, if you've got time, I'm sure Brad has more trucks that need to be unloaded, and he would love to have you come and help him unload trucks.
Yes. But I will never say no. But it would be nice, maybe Eric, if you can come back if you have time and see what we're going to be voting on. It'd be kind of neat to hear your perspective. This is it's not a big election year, but it is a voting year. Sometimes it's just difficult to know what's really on the ballot and what are we really voting for. So that'd be kind of nice to, kind of have a non-partisan, hey, this good, bad, and different. This is what's on the ballot.
Thanks, Brett. Let me put a plug in for an issues forum that is going to occur in early September. I want to say around the September 3 or 2 timeframe. The Mesa Chamber is a member of the East Valley Chambers of Commerce Alliance. It's all the 8 chambers that get together and hire us as their lobbyists to work down at the Capitol on regional issues. And they do a ballot measure forum where they go through each of the ballot measures that have made it, whether it's referral or whether it's initiative, once we know what's on the ballot, and talk about both sides. So that may be something you might be interested in attending.
Okay, September 3rd.
Yeah, Sally will pump out some information about it. Sally and Bob will pump out some information about it once it becomes more solidified.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, and then of course, don't forget, we're coming up on primaries. So once the primaries are done, based on the candidates remaining that are moving forward, the chamber will of course issue a certain number of endorsements. So we may do something around educating people on those endorsements and kind of making them available to talk to everybody. So of course, I'll get that information out to you once we kind of know what that looks like. So be a part of it, ask the questions, find out where you can support and where you can pitch in. That's what it's all about, right? I mean, we're active members of this democracy, and we need to be a part of that. So what other questions do you guys have? Otherwise, I'm not going to hold you here. I'm going to keep you. I'm going to let you go because I know Brad's getting the truck to unload. So
I do. I gotta get to work.
I kind of figured. All right. Well, listen, thank you everybody for being here today. Eric, thank you for joining us today and for giving us some awesome information in relation to what's happening in our state capital. If you guys do have any questions at any point, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Come to the government affairs meeting on Friday. Hang out with Eric. He's a lot of fun. Meet Rachel Womack or Rachel Womack. Sorry, wrong Rachel. Reach. With that, the meeting diverged into nothing. Come and meet Rachel. It'll be a lot of fun. There's a lot to talk about in relation to what's happening there. So that's all I got for you, people. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You bet.